RE19 is declaring a climate emergency. Adapting to climate change means acknowledging the seriousness of this challenge. And with each challenge, there is opportunity in the face of danger. This is why we're submitting this resolution, consistent with other coastal municipalities like Miami Beach and other cities around the United States and around the world, but based on a realistic approach to confronting the effects of dangerous climatic events that we see and experience all too often. As you know, many of us have children, and we want to make sure that Miami is not only here for everyone, but is here forever. Just as we responded to the destruction of Hurricane Andrew, and we have responded to the destruction of Hurricane Irma, and we have seen the destruction of Hurricane Dorian. This is why today we should be taking this bold step to declare a climate emergency for the city of Miami. Our administration has been taking aggressive steps to deal with the climatic impacts that we have seen and felt. As chair of the Environment Committee of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, I championed the effort to declare a climate emergency at the national level and was received not only unanimous support at the committee level, but also at the floor level of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Miami was recently asked by the mayor of Los Angeles, Mayor Garcetti, to join C40, which we are in the process of joining for a carbon neutrality pledge. And we have passed, this commission passed unanimously a pro-carbon dividend resolution among the many other steps that we have taken. We have members of our community that are here that have made tremendous sacrifices. Nicholas Vasquez, in particular, who has been on a hunger strike. This is his third day on a hunger strike outside of City Hall. Hasn't eaten anything for 3 days. We have young men and women in our community who have been cleaning our coastal properties. They've been cleaning our beaches. They've been cleaning our parks. And they have done that at difficulties at times. We have made it difficult for them. But they have persevered, and they have cleaned tons and tons and tons of garbage and plastic from our shoreline. And I've gone out there with my 5-year-old, and I was really, it was really encouraging to see my 5-year-old getting into it and getting excited about not only cleaning, but understanding the impact that some of these items and chemicals have on our quality of life. There is certainly more work to be done, and by declaring a climate emergency, I don't obviously believe that this is the end. I think this is the beginning, but it sends a strong message to the rest of the nation that we are taking our threats seriously and that we are taking a proactive approach to addressing them. I want to thank, and so I would urge the Commission to pass RE19 declaring a climate emergency.
Yes, we'll also would like to co-sponsor the climate, the RE19.
I'd be happy to co-sponsor, honored to RE19. As share both. Yes, Commissioner Carollo.
Before the public begins to talk, if I may ask the clerk to include me as a co-sponsor in all of these items that we have in the motion that I made. I think we all are used to, you certainly are used to in the jobs you had before, that when we declare an emergency, you have a plan to implement and go forward on the emergency. Outside of everything that this commission has approved for the administration to move forward on climate change in the past, on this new declaration of emergency, what plans, goals have you put forward that we're going to be moving forward on?
So I'm going to open the floor for full discussion from the dais after the public comment, if that's all right. And that way the manager can address at that point. We'll have full discussion on the dais on how to implement this and move forward.
Can I just get this should be quick. I mean, I don't think it'll take long for the manager to answer.
If you don't mind, Mr. Commissioner.
Well, the manager, you know, with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, we don't have a strong mayor. It's the manager that by charter has to implement. And I'd like to see what he has to implement in this emergency.
Sir, this is an item which was brought to us by the Office of the Mayor, which we support. This is an urging more than anything else. There is no, if you will, battle plan behind it other than to express our support for this, as was expressed at the Conference of Mayors earlier this year. I made some inquiries with regards to whether there's any sort of financial liability for us. I believe that there is not. Again, this is more than anything else an urging.
Okay, so there is no emergency on acting upon this, only on declaring an emergency. Beyond that, there's nothing else that you have planned to do.
Correct. This is to be consistent with the U.S. Conference of Mayors that the mayor can address if you allow.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thank you for your question, Commissioner. I think the city of Miami is already acting in a state of emergency with respect to climate change insofar as our citizens have empowered us to spend $200 million of their money to create a resiliency model for our city that will allow us to adapt to the climatic events that we're seeing every single day. We have worked, for example, with the Van Allen Institute on Jose Marti Park, which you've been also working with us on, to reshape that park and so many other parks to make them more resilient. As I mentioned in the introductory comments, we're going to be joining C40, which is a carbon neutrality pledge, which would also allow the city of Miami not to be a net polluter. So I think that's incredibly significant. We're looking at other things related to plastic, which has a incredibly disastrous effect on our shoreline. And we have many children, kids, I shouldn't say children because they're not really children, they're young adults who have spent hours and countless hours keeping our beaches clean and our properties clean. So, this is also an urging to the state and the federal government. I think you see on a bipartisan level, both state and federal elected officials taking this issue very seriously. We're taking issues of our bay pollution very seriously, issues of our aquifer and the Everglades very seriously, both at the state level and at the federal level. And we just want our federal and state partners to understand that we are with them and stand with them on this existential threat that could threaten the viability of our way of life. And I think that's why this is important.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a moment, Commissioner. Just a moment, Commissioner. I do agree with you that words without a plan and an expressed plan are just words. And so I absolutely agree with you that if this passes, we'll be making direction to the management to not only quantify what has been done, what is already in the pipeline, but a forward-looking plan. Because it's been clearly stated that there is no specific plan laid out at this point.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. If we wanted to have declared an urgency, we should have said urgency. But I think people expect, when you declare an emergency, an action plan. So I think we need to bring this up at the next commission meeting so we can discuss what action plan we want to put in beyond anything this commission has approved already. And
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Mr. Mayor.
just last. So I just want, again, I want to be clear that there are plans that are already being developed and will continue to be developed. I have no problem discussing them at the next commission meeting. I think there are other things that we need to do, like, for example, we need flood sensors in the city. We shouldn't be relying on residents to text us or send us information to know what areas of the city flood. That's something that this commission would have to authorize, obviously. And there are a variety of other things that we can continue to do and will continue to do to deal with this emergency head on. Thank you.
Stephen Leitner, 555 Northeast 34th Street. So I would like to speak to the climate emergency that you are considering, and the fact that it's not just about buttressing the city of Miami against the impacts of climate change. It's about mitigating the contributions the city of Miami has made and will continue to make. And city of Miami has an important role, and also a role in terms of modeling your legislation that other areas can look towards. And Commissioner Russell, I believe I made some commitments to provide your office with legislation around the country and particularly around the state. The other thing I'd like to speak to is we're all concerned about protecting our own hides, so to speak, but there are almost 50% of species on this planet are expected to become extinct within the next couple of decades. So let's just not think about ourselves, but let's think about the rest of the planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to alternate lecterns, so please just step right up to them. Mr. Mayor.
If I can just briefly also commend the students who have been protesting on Fridays, many of which are here, I see them, that were advocating so passionately for this. And I want them to know that our government does listen to them and care. and it's wonderful to see their advocacy. So many familiar faces turn into public policy. So I think hopefully that's something encouraging for them.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Nicole Gazzo, and my address is 12700 Southwest 91st Avenue. I also want to speak upon the climate emergency item. I first off want to thank Mayor Francis Suarez for proposing this item and for the entire board for everything that you do for the city. Where I should customarily be in school, I decided to sacrifice a day to exemplify the dire need of this item. Declaring a climate emergency means that the city of Miami recognizes the climate crisis as a threat and is taking the appropriate measures to help mitigate and adapt to the crisis. It sets a clear agenda and next steps to help preserve our city and prevent it from getting swallowed by sea level rise by the time us youth activists are 50 years old. By declaring a climate emergency, Mayor Francis Suarez, you will stand as a leader in our county and for other community councils and neighboring city halls to follow in your footsteps, even though Miami Beach was first in doing so. Declaring a climate emergency will give the residents of Miami peace of mind and hope that their city officials are doing everything they can to build resiliency and strength through mobilization strategies in what is known as ground zero for a climate change catastrophe. If we don't act now, Miami Beach will look like Venice currently does and will lose millions of dollars in infrastructure damage and remediation strategies. Imagine if we invested those millions of dollars in solar companies and we harnessed the everlasting solar rays that Miami is so famous for. Where this climate crisis is indeed a crisis, there's also grand opportunity. Now is our chance to make a change for the better and ensure that this beautiful city stays standing despite the terrifying threat of extreme heat, sea level rise, and mass crop failure. It is now your chance to prove the honesty in your mission statement by truly committing to excellent public service and safety to all who live, work, and play in our vibrant tropical community.
Thank you very much. And good morning.
Good morning. My name is Natalie. I live at 330 74th Street in Miami Beach. I'd like to thank the mayor and other elected officials for proposing this resolution and for supporting it. So although I might look like a high school student, I'm actually 30 years old, and this is my first time at a commissioner hearing. I was a member of the United States Peace Corps from the year 2014 to 2016, where I served in West Africa, and I was trained to make big changes in areas that had low to little to no resources. And I know that that's not the case for the city of Miami. We have the money, we have the resources, and what we're doing now is building the political will to see the changes that we need to acknowledge the seriousness of climate change, just like the mayor said. So the seriousness includes extreme heat that affects our work capacity, saltwater intrusions, sea level rise, infectious diseases that affect our community health and our quality of life. And all of that impacts our economy, our agriculture, our infrastructure. So just like I was trained in the Peace Corps, I urge you to see this challenge of the century as the opportunity of a lifetime. Florida is the most vulnerable state to climate change. So I urge you to be the leaders that we can be in the face of this climate crisis. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and honorable members of the Commission. My name is John Paul Mejia, and I come to you today as a 17-year-old who is worried, frankly, about the state of our climate, and I come to you for help, the adult leadership sitting in front of me. So I'm 17 years old. That's an age that ripens the mind of a young adult and his or her understanding of the world from a global and civic perspective. And we also find ourselves in the midst of a very confusing time when we're dealing with a crisis of this caliber. What I'm here asking for today is the declaration of a climate emergency. And by declaring a climate emergency, we are not only issuing a significant appeal to members of your constituency in addressing the reality of this issue, but we are also stepping a foot in the door, the youth that is concerned about this crisis, and we want to have a say in what is done about it. We've been plagued by so much government inaction throughout our upbringing, and we see in front of us our future being stolen. And at this point, we're done with it. So at the signing of this climate emergency resolution, we hope that you will work with us, not in the near future, but now, in order to get significant policy action enacted to ensure not a carbon neutral future, but a carbon neutral present. This is something that cannot wait. The IPCC report that came out in October of last year gave us 12, now 11 years to act on this. And we know that Miami is ground zero and a frontline community when it comes to this issue. So when it comes to passing this resolution, I hope that you will all keep in mind that we are here and we will be here until significant action is passed. And yes, Mr. Commissioner, it is time that we make a plan to confront this in the best way possible. So please pass this resolution. I thank you all, and let's keep the conversation going.
Thank you for your comments. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Nalisa Sati. I'm the program manager of a Greener Coral Way initiative, which has been done by Commissioner Eileen Higgins and the Clio Institute. And it's an amazing initiative to get all of the restaurants on Coral Way from Southwest 3rd Avenue all the way to 27th Avenue to go to get rid of styrofoam and plastics. It's modeling the Miami Beach Plastic Free initiative, and we've surveyed. It's going to include the neighborhoods of Shenandoah, Silver Bluff, and the roads. And what we're going to do is basically, this has more to do than just the environment. This has to do with our public health and the economy. All of the businesses, there's about 30 businesses that we surveyed with the Clio Institute, and they all want more sustainable measures. They're just trying to get the price down, and how do you do that? By getting more people involved as a collective. So if all the restaurants work together to go for sustainable alternatives, then this can be a huge impact, and it's been proven across the board. So the plastic and the styrofoam is affecting our health everywhere. There's plastic pollution, and this is the first step before anything else. It's a try or die scenario. So doing something is at best before doing nothing. And so this climate emergency and this declaration is the government endorsing that this is a significant problem that is substantial, that we all need to take an effort in. That includes all four sectors of the economy: the government, the nonprofits, the for-profits, and the education sector. So and this is an intergenerational thing. This is not just, so this is going to affect the entire Miami-Dade County. I'm very, very proud of you all for taking this initiative, and thank you for continuing to do so. And not only listening to the youth, but also the older residents. This is intergenerational, so we all need to do our steps, our roles. So it's not only us and our footprint, but it's all of us in our collective. It's going to affect our economy. There's a lot of green jobs. We don't even know the titles for those jobs yet, so let's invest in our future and leave a legacy.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor Suarez and honorable members of the City Commission. My name is Samantha Gazda, and I'm a 16-year-old activist that attends Coral Gables Senior High School. I would like to state my support for a declaration of a climate emergency in the city of Miami. The climate crisis is greeting my future with extreme heat, mass crop failure, and sea level rise. We are in the midst of the sixth mass extinction, but we already know this. The science is there. Now, all that's left to do is act. And that starts with declaring a climate emergency. This acknowledgement is a catalyst for further education and knowledge. It sets forth that the city of Miami, one of the most vulnerable cities when it comes to climate change, is aware of what's happening to our city and what's to come. Please pass this resolution for the future of our beautiful city and for the future of our youth. We know you care, and we know you have the power to make change. Thank you for your time and service. Our future depends on you.
Thank you for your comments. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairperson and members of the Commission. My name is Danilo La Torre. I am 20 years old, and I'm studying electrical engineering at Florida International University. I represent the Miami chapter of Fridays for the Future, the family I have now, and the family I hope to have in the steadily collapsing future that is being passed down to my generation. I would like to thank Mayor Suarez for co-sponsoring this resolution and for introducing it. It shows great leadership, and I would like to see the support from the rest of the Commission. So, yes, I support the immediate, urgent declaration of climate emergency in the city of Miami. My reasons and fears for doing so can be found in the IPCC report that was published back in October of 2018. If we have any demands, it is that you listen to the science. That is why many of us are here today for the first real step, acknowledging the need for action in the face of worsening global and local conditions. It is the least the city of Miami can do to combat the catastrophic warming fueling the sixth mass extinction. 26 Fridays. We have spent the majority of 26 Fridays outside of this building, rain or shine, for real climate action and leadership to be taken. Miami is one of the cities most vulnerable to the effects of the climate crisis, and yet we are one of the slowest to respond. Except in adaptation, of course. We can clearly see the rising sea levels, king tides and toxic algae blooms, the issue of saltwater intrusion and danger of superpowered storms and hurricanes. The damage that fossil fuel usage is inflicting on our planet, our futures, and the futures of our children is undeniable. And what's worse, it will be the people least responsible for it, marginalized and low-income communities that will and already are paying the price. Miami must recognize that adaptation without mitigation is meaningless and only serves to kick the can down the road. We can't and won't let that happen. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor Suarez and honorable members of the Commission. My name is Gabriela Rodriguez, and I am a 20-year-old student attending Florida International University. I'm also a constituent of District 11. I would like to state my support for RE 19, a declaration for a climate emergency in the city of Miami. The climate crisis is compromising my future and the future of every young person in this room. Sea level rise threatens our beautiful city, intensifying hurricanes threaten our homes, saltwater intrusion threatens our drinking water. We are in a climate emergency and an ecological crisis. And as you know, Miami is ground zero. The good news is that we have all the solutions to this. Implementing those solutions starts with declaring a climate emergency, as we will do so today. Take this crisis as an opportunity to have Miami lead the way in climate action. Florida will be the state that leads our country in bipartisan support on climate action. Miami needs to be the city that leads Florida. We absolutely have no choice. Thank you for your time. Our future is in your hands, literally. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Bernardo Vilar. I stand here today between my friends representing Miami-Dade College, Fridays for Future, Miami chapter, a generation that is overwhelmed with pictures and fear of an uncertain future, and all the animals that don't have a voice. Between so much tension, I hope I can bring a smile to your faces with an example that is immensely similar to our current situation. When we're young, we must wake up very early to go to school. However, that's not always the case. Sometimes the alarm doesn't ring, and if you come from a Hispanic family, I think you know how the story goes. A gargantuan scream makes you jump out of your bed and you start doing everything at an inhumane speed. I had to Google gargantuan because my mom, rage makes me Google adjectives. On this earth, we're supposed to strive for a peaceful, friendly, and sustainable earth, and we've been slacking on a lot of things. Sadly, everyone ignored and couldn't recognize the alerts on our time. And our alarm rang way over the 1970s, and we haven't even stood up. We're still in our bed, but thankfully we're starting to wake up. Declaring an emergency state is an imperative first step that needs to be taken. Like when we wake up and tell ourselves that we overslept and we need to hurry up. Without that, achieving our necessary goals won't be feasible. We will not make it to that bus with the same attitude and character we've been displaying. To fix a problem, you need to first acknowledge it. This resolution is that very first step. There's a lot of blood in our hands due to inaction. 50% of all wildlife around the globe is already dead. It's lost, gone forever. The 28,000 plus species from today, the ones that are still alive, are threatened with extinction. Hundreds of cattle die, both in Africa and South America, due to extremely long droughts. Elephants are butchered on a daily basis in Africa and Asia.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, let me finish with this. I thank and applaud you for beginning to show some world-sized leadership. Stand strong, refuse to give ground, and fight for your earth and people.
Thank you for your comments. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Esther Pankin. I live in North Miami. I'm a 17-year-old student that goes to Miami Springs Senior High. I'm here as part of the Miami chapter of Fridays for Future as one of the social media coordinators and the face of the future generations. I come here to address that as a leading city in the climate change movement, declaring a climate emergency is just the beginning. The epidemic of climate change has and will be having a catastrophic effect on our home.
A study first published in 2018 by the Union of Concerned Scientists identified U.S. coastal communities where the largest number of residents live in properties are projected to face the highest level of chronic and disruptive flooding by 2060. The beautiful coastlines that sustain our economy will be ruined, and the community once built around these natural habitats will no longer exist due to ignorance of locals and officials alike. I urge you to act upon your declaration of climate emergency for Miami and propose an agenda where we do everything in our power to fix this problem without cutting corners. So you can look me in the eyes and look at every individual and tell us that you did everything in your power to mitigate this issue. The recent incident with Hurricane Dorian that could have easily been us unfortunately ruined the Bahamas in a devastating way. The Bahama National Emergency Management Agency stated on the report on September 27th that 56 people were declared deceased and 608 people are still missing. But how much more do we have to go through to be taken seriously? How many more lives have to be taken? How much more pollution has to be put in our air? How much more evidence needs to be given from viable sources to be taken as what climate change is? An emergency. Your words will not be enough to suffice for the damage done by individuals in power who know the grandiosity of this problem and did not have enough courage to do it. But we do. I support the climate emergency declaration for the city of Miami, and I expect you to follow through with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Good morning.
Good morning. In support of the declaration of the climate emergency, I will simply be ceding my time to Nicholas Vasquez. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, speaker's name. Sir, just make sure we get your name one more time.
Anthony Zambrana.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Vasquez. I'm with Extinction Rebellion, Miami, and Fridays for Future, Miami. I have joined the youth in fighting for their future. Every Friday, I've been outside in front of Miami City Hall, Miami Beach City Hall, Coral Gables City Hall, urging them to take action and firstly declare a climate emergency. Simply tell the truth about the emergency that we're in. I would like to state my support for the declaration of climate emergency. I have been on hunger strike for 3 days now in front of Miami City Hall. I do apologize if I might be a little incoherent. I am privileged to take this action. Here in the global north, many of the Western countries have an abundance of food. I act in solidarity with the 820 million people already suffering from hunger and starvation worldwide, while billions are at risk of starvation and death from the climate and ecological collapse. I act in solidarity with those most vulnerable to this crisis. Mozambique has been obliterated. 1 million have been displaced. Hurricane Dorian has obliterated the Bahamas. I do want to thank Mayor Suarez for proposing this resolution for a declaration of climate emergency. And you are all correct, this resolution is a symbolic action, and it's not legally binding actions to radically reduce its emissions at wartime speed and safeguard the city of Miami from the collapse of civilization. This is what David Attenborough has said at COP24. The collapse of civilization is on the horizon. The climate crisis is the defining issue of the 21st century. The climate and ecological crisis should not be politicized. This is ultimately about survival of all life on Earth. This is the biggest challenge humanity faces. 11,000 scientists from over 150 countries officially declared that the world is in a climate emergency, according to a new report released 16 days ago on the 5th of November. This paper warns of untold human suffering if action on climate change is not taken. Just last year, over 20,000 scientists signed a similar warning. Last year, in the words of Greta Thunberg, how many warnings do we need for us to actually start treating this crisis as a crisis? Last year, the UN Secretary General warned us humanity and life on Earth now face a direct existential threat. The world must act swiftly and robustly to keep global warming under 1.5 C degrees and avoid utterly catastrophic impacts of life on Earth. The IPCC Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has concluded that limiting global warming to 1.5 C would require rapid, far-reaching, and unprecedented changes in all aspects of society. We are already above 1.1 degrees of global average temperature since the pre-industrial period. Global warming could temporarily hit 1.5 C above pre-industrial levels for the first time between now and 2023, according to a long-term forecast by the Met Office. A mass extinction event only in the roughly 540 million years is underway. Carbon emissions have risen by 60% since 1990. We are on a suicidal course to mass death and the possibility of human extinction. We are on a sinking city, and we must act now. The climate crisis poses a national security threat. According to a recent U.S. Army report, Americans could face a horrifically grim future from climate change involving blackouts, disease, thirst, starvation, and war. It warned that the U.S. military could collapse within 20 years due to climate change. This is from a recent U.S. Army report, mind you.
Your 4 minutes have expired.
Just to end on this, the climate crisis is fundamentally about climate justice. Nearly 1,000 children a day are now dying because of climate change. And the annual death toll stands at 400,000 people worldwide. I will not end my hunger strike until this declaration is passed. I will not end my hunger strike until the mayor and staff make an official public statement announcement involving major local news networks and inform its citizenry and declare a climate emergency.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
I do just want to say,
sir, your time is up.
The youth are not striking. The youth are begging for their lives. This is their future. We must act now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Please hold your applause. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Brianna Rushton, and I'm a 20-year-old student attending Florida International University. I'm studying sustainability and the environment, and I'm here to support my future along with the future of this city. I believe it is very important and necessary to alter our perspective of declaring this climate emergency. Climate action and environmental justice are not just another file or problem to file in the cabinet of other socioeconomic problems that we are facing today. We need to realize that this is the foundation that is holding up our livelihood in this city and around the world. And neglecting it will inevitably lead to our demise and the demise of the city. So, declaring climate emergency will not only push forward the necessary steps it takes for us, but it will open up the doors for a very late conversation that we've needed to have for many years, including climate injustice and environmental racism that is happening in this city. So, I support and thank you all for considering declaring the climate emergency, and this is what the city of Miami needs. It is a gateway to solving environmental injustice and environmental racism, amongst many other problems that these wonderful students have already listed. So I will save you that time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, City of Miami Commissioners and Mayor Suarez. My name is Sandra Villamizar, and I'm 18 years old, and I'm studying business at Miami-Dade College. I represent Animal Rebellion's Miami chapter and the Yes Club West campus, and the next generation. I support the declaration of a climate emergency in the city of Miami. Seeing the way that our future is headed, I'm afraid to have kids. I won't lie. I don't think that we should be doing this. We shouldn't be telling you that there's a climate emergency. We shouldn't be spending all of our time constantly researching how bad of a future we're gonna have. Scientists have been doing this already, and for decades. They're aware of what's happening, and we shouldn't be the ones taking action on it. It should be you. We young people are scared because we don't know enough. All we know is that adults have failed us, and their inaction in climate change is why we're in a climate and ecological crisis now. Declaring a climate emergency is the first step to treating this crisis as the actual emergency that it is. And next steps should be taken soon. We don't have much time to be taking this issue with such painful slowness. In fact, we have just 11 years left to adjust our carbon budget. So thank you for proposing to declare a climate emergency. Once it is declared, everyone in Miami should know about it, and action should be taken right away in the same way as all emergencies are treated. It will make no sense to declare an emergency and hide it from our constituents. Once again, this is why I support the declaration of a climate emergency in the city of Miami. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hello, my name is Gabriela Espinoza. Thank you to the mayor and the commission members, the committee members. I'm 20 years old. I'm a biology student standing alongside Fridays for Future Miami, Tropical Audubon Society, and the Clear Catalyst Miami. I'm also here as a local concerned about the future of my city. Declaring a climate emergency means stating the importance of what Miami and other coastal communities face in the effects of climate change. I am in support of a declaration of a climate emergency. It's the action we should have taken years ago. High school and college students are learning about the status of the earth, and now we are voicing for the kind of future we want. The other alternative is not viable. Even if the U.S. pulled out of the Paris Treaty Accord, the city of Miami, the Magic City, still has a say. We all need to do our part. We can lead by example and show our resiliency in a time where we need to come together to solve this crisis. I support the climate emergency declaration for the city of Miami and believe you understand the far-reaching effects of the climate crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, City of Miami Commissioners, Chairman Russell, and Mayor Suarez. Thank you so much for having us today. My name is Allison Rich, and I'm a City of Miami resident that is gravely concerned about the inaction on climate change in Miami. I'm also a third-generation Miamian who's returned to support climate action and Ground Zero for climate change. I'm also the co-founder for the Baltimore Green Schools Network, the Maryland Environmental Health Network, and I served as the chair for the Education, Communications, and Outreach Working Group of the mandated Maryland Climate Change Commission. Of all of these roles, I'm most honored to serve as an educator, and it is an absolute honor to serve as an adult mentor to the students across our diverse county that compose Fridays for the Future. I'm in awe of their efforts to meet every week, 26 weeks in a row now, to learn how to save our beautiful and rich community from the impending climate emergency. In fact, we spent the week learning about public comments. We know the climate emergency is real. King tide level floods could occur between 10 and 50 days a year by 2050, which is only 30 years away, and every other day to every single day by 2100. This is why I support the climate emergency declaration. But I am here today to support the Fridays for the future students, and to urge each of you, the commissioners, our decision makers, to collaborate with our youth to respond to the climate emergency, not only through a declaration, which is a great first step, but in educating our neighbors on the emergency. It is our moral imperative to develop multi-generational collaboratives in South Florida to address our sinking city. And I dream of a day when our youth need not protest outside for climate action, but rather are given a seat at the decision-making table here today. Thank you for your time and consideration to support a climate declaration.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, good morning, Chairman Russell and members of the committee. My name is Mihai Preda. I'm a physicist, and I'm a mentor to the students of the Friday for Future movement. Thank you for proposing to declare a climate emergency. I support it. I would like to share with you what I know, which is, I believe it's relevant for the present discussion. This is based on an article from the Proceeds to the National Academy of Sciences, which is a body that was established to provide scientific advice to the government. Here's the main idea of an article from 2018 called Trajectories of the Earth System in the Anthropocene. Our continued fossil fuel use and emissions risk tipping the Earth system towards a state called the hothouse Earth, with serious disruptions to ecosystems, society, and economies. The lead author of this article explained it like this: another 5 more years of inaction and we will be done. I'll submit a copy of this article to the committee. So let's stop talking about Miami forever, as if installing water pumps is going to do anything for Miami long term. Let's start talking about the survival of the human civilization. Let's declare a climate and an ecological emergency today, and let's make sure that everybody who lives in Miami or who passes through Miami knows about it. Only then we'll start treating it like the emergency that it is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment.
All right. My name is Alexander Fornino. I'm a citizen of Coral Gables, and I'm speaking in favor of the climate change emergency resolution. As you know from the IPCC report, we are, as you might say, doomed by climate change unless we act boldly by 2030. That means perhaps even 20% or even more of every governmental discretionary budget. So I bring that to the table, speaking towards, what about Miami, of course, specifically. The Forbes article, what about the good news about sea level rise? It lists several issues about climate change, specifically sea level rise, including the devastation that would happen, making Miami somewhat similar to New Orleans, or even, as one said, Venice, Italy. The only bright side of it would be the repair industry, as many buildings would need repairs, preparation for the flooding. Various entities would be passing around buildings, selling this building, selling that building. Oh, I don't want to have this loss. I don't want to have it either. It would be chaos. It would be like passing the buildings around like hot potatoes, passing property around like the world would be ending, because flooding would happen over and over again. And not only that, of course, there would also be large hurricanes like the ones in the past few years. There would likely be one hitting us. So I want to ask you a hypothetical question, something to think about. Is this what you want your legacy to be? All this chaos, to just let it happen? Because in the future, they're going to look at your legacy and think, they didn't do anything about it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you to Mayor Suarez and the rest of the commission for pushing for the initiative of a climate declaration. I represent Senate for the Sea, and we are a student-led nonprofit which hosts weekly beach cleanups around Miami in the public parks and beaches. Within the last 4 months, we have pulled about 9,000 pounds of garbage from the local parks, which is a mere scratch on the surface when you think of ocean pollution in general. About a garbage truck's worth of plastic is dumped into the ocean every minute, collectively around the world. And weekend after weekend, we hit the same beaches and we pull the same amount of weight consistently. So there is a plastic pollution issue, and plastic pollution is just one of the pillars fueling climate change. Miami is a tourism-driven city, so without clean beaches and healthy water quality, you guys would be losing a great sector of the city. And, this is a call for change and action, and we need it now, not 10 years from now. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Chair, if I get the speaker's name.
Your name, please, sir.
Teo Kone.
Please hold your applause. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Steven Murillo, and I want to thank you all for being here discussing this problem. My main concern right now is that the youth is actually taking most of we started a wave here in the community of Miami. It's a beautiful wave. I came from Costa Rica. I've been here for 7 years. I fell in love with this city, and I'm not going anywhere. And I take responsibility for this. And me and my friends and everyone along me, we started a wave that we're not going to stop. And all we're asking from you guys is to help us out a little bit to continue this wave. We need to learn more about the problem, and we need to take advantage of what we know and start to do something about it. Because if we don't start to do something about it, we're going to see the consequences soon. And I really want to thank Mayor Suarez for helping us out. I'm part of Center for the Sea as well. And right now we're really working on some local solutions that will be presented to you guys soon, hopefully. And I just want to thank you all and to please let's keep on going with this. And if this is not passed today, to please get together again and try to figure out a plan, because we do need a plan. We're working on that, but we need to do this soon. It can't go on more 6 months. We have to do this in the next 3 months. We have to take opportunities. We have to do this now before it's too late. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. My name is Eric Offengand. I'm with 350 South Florida and Greenpeace. I just wanted to applaud all of the youth activists for all of their dedication and hard work to make our local governments address the climate emergency. Obviously, I'm in favor of the declaration, and particularly want to commend those who are on hunger strike until such a declaration is made here at the city. 350.org is a global organization working to tackle the climate crisis. 350 refers to the parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere that scientists decades ago declared would be the safe level to avoid the catastrophic effects of climate change. We're already well above 400 parts per million. So as we've heard, we have about 10 years left to address this crisis. And I really urge the city to do whatever it can to push for a renewable energy future, commit to basically going 100% renewable energy as far as the city of Miami consumption is concerned, which would mean using whatever leverage you have to put pressure on FPL and the Public Service Commission to allow more rooftop solar and more clean energy options. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Guido Reichstatter. I'm 39. I'm a father of 2 young children, 10 and 12. I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I signed up at the age of 18 to protect my country. And I have to say that you all have failed. Your generation has failed. My generation has failed. Because of that, this city will go underwater. It's only a matter of time. But it's bigger than this. This is a threat that threatens the entire world. This threatens the security of our country. And I applaud all of you who have spoken in support of this climate emergency resolution. And for those of you who maybe are sitting on the fence, I urge you to surrender. Surrender to the truth. This is an issue that will define this century. It will define the lives of your children and grandchildren. It will define the lives of hundreds of millions of people around the earth. Give this win. Give these people this win. We need to build momentum, and it needs to go beyond the city chamber. It needs to go to the state, it needs to go to the national, and it needs to go to the global level, because Miami cannot solve this problem by itself. Momentum is beginning to build, and you need to lend your voices and your power to that momentum. Don't hold back. You need to fight. We need you to fight for us. Reach down. If you've never fought for anything in your life, reach down and find it now, because we need your power. We need your voice in this fight. I think about the future that my children are going to grow up into, and it's not looking good. The direction that this country is headed, the direction this world is headed with respect to the climate crisis, is headed for catastrophe. There is simply no polite words for it. If you're not aware of this, you need to listen to the science, and you need to find out. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Please.
Good morning, and thank you for being so patient. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Clio Institute. We are a nonprofit organization based here in Miami, and our main purpose is to educate and advocate and empower citizens and residents on the issue of climate change. And today I'm here in support of RE19, which, as you know, is the Declaration of Climate Emergency. And really, I want to convey 2 things. One, at the Clio Institute, we are at your service if anything is needed in order to put this plan into action. We have a lot of documents that show what other cities have done once they have declared a climate emergency. So we have all the resources that you need to pave the way forward and to really be a shining example for all of Miami-Dade County and the rest of the country. Now, Miami, we know we are at ground zero, and so the urgency is stark. And you've heard all of the students talk a little bit about all of the data that comes in terms of sea level rise, all of the threats that come as a result of extreme heat and not decarbonizing our economy. Commissioner Carollo, I know that you have a soft spot for a quote that goes as the following: "The future does not belong to the lighthearted, it belongs to the brave." These students are brave. They have been working alongside the Clio Institute, along other youth groups like Extinction Rebellion. They've been working with the Sunrise Movement, Fridays for Future, Greenpeace, Miami, all of the local universities, and so they really are brave. They are sacrificing so much to be here and to have their word be heard. And so I encourage you and really implore you to listen to them. If you, for the people who know me on a personal level, I am a huge introvert. This is me being brave. This is me speaking and asking you all to please listen and to declare this climate emergency. It's important. We know it's symbolic, but it's a good symbol. It shows you that it shows the rest of the county that the city of Miami is listening and that you have the future of your residents in mind. So again, at the Clio Institute, we have all of the resources you need in order to get your climate and decarbonization plan in action for the city, and we'd love to have future conversations with you. So please support it, and we look forward to the vote. Thank you.
Thanks. Before I close public comment, is there anyone else here who would like to speak on any of these 4 items? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Sir, your time is up. I'm sorry. Sir, please. Sir. He's finished. Please, sir. You don't need to remove him physically. It's all right.
Rebel for life.
Thank you. Order. Thank you. All right. I'll close public comment on these 4 items and open up discussion on the dais. Madam City Attorney, I understand we have a couple substitution and amendments on the street namings.
Yes, on the street namings, we just wanted to clarify, and you all got the substitutions on exactly where the markers are going to be.
Yes.
And changing from avenue to calle for Carlos Lopez Valdez, and the exact marker placement for both those items. So that is what's being substituted.
And the phone numbers for the...
And yes, thank you. There's also a substitution on adding the hotlines, the local hotlines, and the national hotlines for the human trafficking item as well.
Thank you very much. Does the mover and seconder approve the amendments and substitutions?
Yes, move it.
It's already been moved and seconded. So I just need to check that mover and seconder is good with the amendments. Thank you. Opening the dais for discussion on any of these 4 items. Yes, Commissioner Reyes.
I have a couple of comments. First of all, in the emergency declaration, I know that I agree that it is symbolic, but it's real also. I think on Tuesday I was driving by 7th Avenue. On one side I approached the 5th Street Bridge. It was flooded. And it's totally flooded. And I thought that maybe a pipe broke. But when I look at the river was so high that the water got into the drainage and it was flooding the street. This is real. But I do agree with Commissioner Carollo that by declaring a state of emergency without an action plan means nothing. So I will request also from the administration that they start developing an action plan, and please to keep us abreast of it so we are informed of what's going on.
Further discussion on the dais. I would like to add, regarding the climate emergency declaration, that it's very clear that this body would like to see an action plan. My recommendation is over the next 5 months, the city compile a very specific plan of short, medium, and long-term objectives with quantifiable results. That if we take XYZ action, that we will see ABC result. I'd like to commend the administration for what they have been doing up to now. For those of you who should know, in the most recent lease of fleet vehicles, over 200 vehicles, all of them are hybrid. And I'd like to see legislation brought forward that we make this a practice in the city of Miami. Vehicles, where applicable, where we can, all are of a hybrid or electric nature. That's just one example of a very simple step that can make a huge difference. There's probably not a larger fleet in the city of Miami than the city of Miami fleet of vehicles. But we can bring all of this, I would say, by the April 9th meeting, so that we can pass a full, comprehensive plan for the city of Miami, short, medium, and long term, by Earth Day, which is April 22nd. So that's the direction of the management, and then we'll have further discussion. Mr. Mayor.
I think Commissioner Gord, did you want to say something?
Mainly this is a problem, like Commissioner Ray was stating a little while ago. I go through the bridge every morning, and I can see the differences of the water going up and down. So it's a reality. We also need part of the plan. I think one of the main reasons we got to educate the community. There's a lot of people who don't realize what really is going on. And since we have a lot of visitors from other countries, whatever education program we can put together, they can transmit into their own country also. Because there's so much that the city of Miami can do. But let's face it, this is a world problem. We got to work as a world.
I'll just be brief. I just want to thank the Commission for their support of these initiatives. I think that they're initiatives that are going to have a lasting impact on our city, on vulnerable, not only the vulnerable populations in our city, but the city itself, which is vulnerable. And I agree with the Commission. I think there has to be a concrete plan, which I will work with the Commission to roll out by Earth Day, State of the City, etc. It'll all be rolled together, that will talk about how we seek to be carbon neutral, not just as a government, but hopefully as a city, and what we can put in place to do what we can as a city that, as our students have said very articulately, is ground zero for climate change. As you have all articulated, there have been many examples that we see day in and day out. This is not abstract for us. This is not theoretical for us. This is very real. So I look forward to working with the Commission on that.
Any further comment from the dais? One final note on the April 9th deadline to put together the study. I'll give you a head start. The DDA, under my chairmanship, commissioned a ULI study, which convened here, which will give you a lot of good insight on things we can work on with our resilient shoreline. The Resilient 305 study that was commissioned by the Miami Foundation, as well as the 100 Resilient Cities Network, already has a multi-step plan, but without specifics. So if the management could take those two plans into their design concepts and come back with a specific action plan with quantifiable results. Any further discussion from the dais? Hearing none, all in favor of these 4 items say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Now you can applaud. Thank you very much. That is PH8, RE8, RE9, and RE19.